Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tuesdays with Tally. This is episode 34, and I'm your host, Brian Tally. The mission and the goal of this podcast is to bring an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. We will inspire, encourage, educate, and tell the stories of some of America's finest men and women in an effort to motivate you to live your life to its fullest potential. Be sure to follow us on social media and on Spotify. The online information and handles are all located on the scrolling ticker at the bottom portion of your screen. Be sure to like and share the program as well. You can also support the program by going to Anchor FM or Spotify and clicking the support button. Folks, let me tell you about Patriot Home Services, a reliable company who stands by their word and comes in on time and on budget. Every time. Patriot Home Services is located in the Woodlands, Texas, and offers a wide array of services. Cody Dawson, the owner, is a hands-on contractor who will follow through on your project and will leave you having, perhaps, the best contracting experience you've ever had. Whether you need home additions, remodels, outdoor patios and kitchens, flooring, painting, and much more, one call does it all. Patriot Home Services, 720-745-2568, or visit them online at patriothomeservicesllc.com. That's patriothomeservicesllc.com. Folks, we have a very special guest joining us on today's program. John Tiegen leverages over 13 years of high-profile security and force protection expertise within contract and government agencies, along with his military experience as a United States Marine Corps sergeant. John learned early in life the importance of a strong work ethic and a will to overcome hardships in the face of adversity, having grown up in a broken home. After his military service concluded, he continued serving as a security contractor with Blackwater on missions in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iraq. He then joined the CIA's Global Response Staff, where he was tasked with conducting low-profile security in high-threat environments throughout the world. The Battle of Benghazi on September 11, 2012, Islamic militants attacked the American diplomatic compound in Benghazi, Libya. Quiet and precise, TIG was the most experienced Annex Security Team member. Defying a stand-down order, he, along with his team, rushed into burning buildings to defend the consulate and fought arm in arm in defense of the annex, holding off the radical Islamic terrorists until CIA employees could be safely evacuated. No American forces showed up to assist the security team during those 13 hours of combat, while 4 Americans lost their lives that day. If not for the heroic acts of TIG and his team, that number would be much greater. TIG personally saved the lives of many of his team and was paramount in rescuing over 24 others. He received the award for Heroism and Valor for his bravery that night. Folks, with that, we welcome to the program John TIG Tiegen himself. How are you, sir?
Yeah, doing good now that I'm unmuted.
Well, that's good. I mean, hey, look, dude.
I feel like I'm working for the government again. I mean, you silence me, so I can't say anything, can't make any.
How about that? Well, I know you're a heavy breather. You know what I mean? So I just gotta, I gotta keep that to a minimum, at least when I'm doing my Patriot Home Services commercial for my
right.
For my one advertiser I got out there right now. Folks, if you're looking for a guy, a voice for an advertiser, you got to call me, man. You know what I mean? All right. Man, I am so honored to have you on the program. I know we've become good friends over the years.
Yep.
And, you are an American hero. You're a warrior. You are a patriot. And the world needs to know more about you and what you do and what you've done for our country and the sacrifices that you have made to keep us all safe, and secure here on the home front. Uh, I want to get started. We've got a lot to talk about here. And first off, John, I want you to let our listeners know a little bit about who you are, where you grew up, and what your childhood was like.
Well, originally from Iowa. I left there. I don't know. I'd say around between third and fourth grade, and moved to Colorado, and then so pretty much I'm a Colorado. Grew up in Colorado, really. Just born in Iowa, grew up in Colorado, and I just kind of went from there. I would say people always ask, well, why'd you want to join the military? But I kind of started in Iowa because we lived across the street from a recruiting station. So I always went over there, and got posters and all that stuff. So just kind of pretty much that's the direction I was going from the very beginning. Initially, I wanted to join the Army, try to be an Apache pilot. Unfortunately, I had to get glasses, and then I realized I hated school. So I figured being a pilot is not going to happen. Then Full Metal Jacket came out, and I said, that's it, and joined the Marine Corps.
Man, you're like the fourth guy I've had on my shows that said, man, Full Metal Jacket was all I needed, and that was the influence. That was the turning point in my life. It's like, wow, Full Metal Jacket, man, put more guys in the Corps than anybody. They're the best recruiter.
It's really just the boot camp scene, the Vietnam scene. Yeah, I mean that was kind of cool, but it was the boot camp. I don't know why, but you think that would like make people run from going to the Marine Corps, but I don't know. I just thought I was like, hell, that's awesome. So yeah, that's kind of why I went that way, and yeah.
So when you were in high school, and I know you grew up across the street from the recruiting station, whatever, and as you were a kid and you were checking all that out, and you got older, you watched Full Metal Jacket, and then you go into high school, and was the Marine Corps still on your mind then, or were things kind of looking a little bit different?
Oh, hell no. Well, besides probably going to jail, but that's about it. I was good. I was one of those kids getting a lot of trouble. Then, no parental supervision whatsoever. It's kind of like you're self-supervised. But no, I mean, I would say I was supposed to go to school. I worked more than I went to school. I got a job, I think, when I was like 14 or 15 with a worker's permit or something like that, and then just worked ever since. So then, well, the only thing that really kept me in school was sports, besides the military. And then when I turned 17, I was joined the delayed entry program for the Marine Corps, and then that's kind of when I had like, okay, I really gotta pass this school thing so I can move on. But never really graduated. I actually got my high school diploma when I was 16 to get another job. So I think it was November. I was in the middle of my English class. I think it was like third period or something. And Sergeant Black calls me and says, hey, when do you want to go to boot camp? Of course, the teacher, the teacher in the background needed to hang up the phone, get off the phone. Because, 95, not very many kids had phones in schools anyways. So I was one of them. But, and I'm just like, well, when do you need me? He says, I needed you 10 minutes ago. It's like, all right. And I was going to leave for boot camp because they're getting ready to go on Thanksgiving vacation, school break, whatever, Thanksgiving break for school. And then the day after Thanksgiving, I was headed off to boot camp. And that's kind of how I went. So I didn't have to graduate because I had my high school diploma or my GED, just from when I was 16. And I only had to get 4 more credits. They're like, yeah, don't worry about it. You're close enough. We can give you a waiver for it. And again, I was just still getting a lot of trouble. So I was like, yeah, I'll just get out of here. If I can, I'll go. So that's,
you mentioned Sergeant Black. That wasn't out of the Citadel recruiting station, was it?
No, he was they actually closed this one. This one was down off of North Academy more, kind of closer to Chapel Hills, but they tore that whole complex down. That whole building's gone too, but it's trying to think of the cross street. It's like Academy and Vickers or something like that.
Yeah, Vickers and Academy. Yeah, because I was recruited at that same recruiting station with, Gunny McGlasson and
I think
Gunny
I worked for.
Rodriguez.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I did some recruiting duty for Gunny McClassigan. That
Mm-hmm.
kind of sounds familiar.
Oh
If I
yeah, big
saw him, I'd
old
recognize him.
Levi Garrett Chew. Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, that sounds like him.
Yeah, poster Marine, hard charger.
Yep.
Yeah, he ran
Yep,
a tight ship, man, for sure. So you land in the Marine Corps, you become a sergeant in the Marine Corps, you go through your military service, you get out and you still want to serve. And you say, I'm going to become a Blackwater contractor. Now let's start from there. Where did Blackwater take you?
Well, I thought it was going to be a plumber, but there was the Blackwater whole thing was just deceiving.
He was signing up to clean drains and pump the shit.
That's right.
Well, I guess that's one way to drain the swamp, right? Just get TIG out there.
No, so I didn't start with Blackwater initially. I started with a company called CSA out of Kuwait. They were doing the security work on Camp Doha in Kuwait City, and I did that for about a year, but I got in a lot of trouble doing that one too, because they would, I don't know, you're on Camp Doha, an army base is what it was, but it seemed like you screwed with the military guys coming back from Iraq in the combat zone than you did anything else there. I mean, so I got in a lot of trouble because units were coming back, to go on R&R, and you can tell like the real units versus, the units that were up there that just sat in the building. So I kind of made those other units actually abide by the rules, but the other ones you could tell, like the infantry units and stuff like that, the ones that were actually seeing stuff, and you're supposed to have this memo signed by the base commander that will allow your unit to come on. So I just get the hind ring, and obviously this is like, okay, I'm gonna let you guys on, but this is what's gonna happen. They won't let you off. I mean, you're not gonna get back off base unless you have this. So I always let them on. Because it's either that or they stay out there and I'll just get inside, at least get, use an actual toilet and and enjoy yourself. So I got in a lot of trouble.
So why do they have contractors guarding this base wouldn't they just normally use Marines or soldiers for that?
You would think. And I just think it was just the number, and they needed the numbers to go up north is my guess. I don't really know. I don't know why a lot of the actual military uses contractors when they should be using military guys to gain the experience to do that stuff. Mm-hmm. But I don't really know. The only thing I think of is actually it is cheaper to have contractors than it is active duty, because like the Marine Corps, there's actual 30,000 true ground pounders, and the rest is all there for support. Mm-hmm. So 150,000 are in the Marine Corps to support 30,000. So right. That's a lot of extra, in the background. A lot of people don't realize, and plus, again, we're a contractor, so if we get hurt, whatever, go away. It's no longer their problem. It ain't like I can go to the VA for it because I was contracting. Mm-hmm. So even in the long run, we're cheaper. So
right. So you would go through and pretty much backfill where they sent these troops that would normally do the job you were doing. They get sent, into combat or somewhere else, and then you come in and you backfill, you fill those positions, and you make sure that it is getting done to the highest quality standards of guarding that base. Now,
maybe not to the commander's standards, but to my standards. Because again, I'm letting the units on. I'm not going to keep them outside. Like, yeah, go ahead, go on.
Well, you use common sense as well,
yeah,
and that's where a lot of people don't use common sense. And and I trust your judgment on that. So, when you were first doing this job, are the rules of engagement similar to those of an active duty Marine?
I would say for the most part it was, but as long as we could articulate why we did what we did, they didn't really care. So we didn't really, we kind of had to abide by the rules of engagement. When once something happened, it was game on. We didn't have to stop, wait, or anything. Well, when was it? When Obama was in, I think they changed the rules of engagement to where if they're shooting at you and they stop and drop their gun, you got to stop shooting at them or something like that. Where to us, once it's engaged, we're engaged. You're kind of done.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we weren't there to stay to fight. We were there to get our people out of there, and that was our job. So, whereas again, the Marine Corps or the Army, they would just obliterate everything in front of them. So,
Right.
our job again, it was different, but we could engage. So again, the moment something clacked off, the rules were pretty much out the window.
You were fighting to the death.
Yeah.
After this contract was up, what was your next contract?
For which contract? What are you talking? Which one?
After you left Camp Doha?
Oh, Kuwait. I didn't really know. I was just because I was there for a year, so I was watching a lot of the just researching a lot of the contract companies that were there because you had a bunch of fly by night ones. I mean, you did have companies that were out there that were doing just going down the street and shooting and wild west stuff. Things you'd hear, just people just randomly shooting people. That was true. That was happening. But then you'd have companies who would send guys up there with no guns, no armored vehicles, and just kind of blindly going. So you had to watch out for them. And usually those are the ones that would literally pay you $90,000 for 3 months of work. But 90% of the people that did that never came home either.
Right.
So you had to watch out for that. So I ended up applying for Blackwater, and they said, "All right, come down." I think it was like a 1-month train up. I think it took a month for the train up. I had no idea what I was going to be doing, even up until the very last day when it said, "Okay, you passed everything." Then you went down, you sat down, you got read in, and you still don't know where you're going. You just say, "Okay, this is who you're working for. This is what you're going to be doing." And then it just kind of went from there.
Take us to Benghazi. You are working a security detail there, guarding the embassy.
Nope.
What was that? No,
not guarding the embassy. We were guarding the CIA annex.
Okay, the CIA annex.
Yeah.
What was that experience like when you first got there and you started to get into that job?
That one, I mean, it was actually one of the better AOs, more relaxing AOs I've been in. First went in, I was part of the team that went up to Tripoli and reopened up the embassy in Tripoli. It's established the CIA compound in Tripoli, and then on my return trip, that's when I went to Benghazi, and it was again a different experience. They would actually come up, shake the locals I'm talking about would come up, shake your hand, say it's proud of me to be meet an American. Thank you for getting rid of Gaddafi for us. You'd be in a restaurant, they'd buy your food for you. It's just like it was just different. I mean, you still got stink eyes here and there, but for the most part, it was pretty relaxed. But it was a lot of the neighborhoods were controlled by different gangs. I would say it's the easiest way to explain it. They'd set up their own checkpoints and stuff like that. So you were always out in town trying to figure out where the new checkpoints were because they would just pop up. Sometimes you'd run it a route, and then next thing you know, you go back out and there's a checkpoint. So you just try to do your best. But usually, when they saw a gringo, they just let you go. It's the ones that were known terrorist groups that would they try to get you to get out of the car, roll down your window, and all this other stuff, and you just kind of stay buckled up and just look at them like, dude, just let us go, you dumbass. But
did you ever feel threatened when you were out there out in town?
I mean, it's always there. I mean, you're always a target. I would say probably the first trip, not really, because it was pretty dead. It was kind of like COVID when you drove around here in the States. That's what it was like the first trip, and because it was just everything was still closed because the war was still kind of going on. Not really Benghazi, but they're still trying to just trying to figure things out. Um, in my second trip, it's slowly shops are starting to kind of open back up. Restaurants are open. More restaurants are opening back up. And then my final trip, it was just like full city was open. It was just gridlock. LA freaking traffic. You'd still hear gunshots going off randomly, but I mean, the threat. I mean, it's always there, but it wasn't like Afghanistan or Iraq, where you're just like, yeah, it's just different.
Mm-hmm. Can you explain to our listeners what running a route is?
So it's just like you're going somewhere and you just got to plan your route, especially if you're like in a high traffic city. You want to try to avoid certain stuff, so you plan your own route versus letting MapQuest or whatever plan your route for you. You just kind of plan your own route, so you kind of go and drive it. And again, you have to see what's there. Again, if there's any checkpoints, if they put a just that they block the road off, there's road construction. Because you're driving people around, you got to make sure that you know where you're going, how to get there, and if there's any obstacles, you don't want to be stuck in it, because that's when people usually get killed.
Right.
And plus, if there's
right.
nothing there, next thing you know, you do see an obstacle in the road, like, okay, this is odd, this ain't. So it's when the tingly starts, your spinal, your spidey sense kicks in, like, okay, let's go. So
Yeah,
it's just that's what a route is. Again, you're just pre-planning your driving route.
Yeah, you got that intuition, and always trust your gut, right?
Yep.
So when you were out running these routes out in town, and you get stopped by these gangs who were running the city, they obviously knew that you guys were contractors, correct?
No.
Oh no.
They didn't know. They didn't know who we
So
were. They just knew we were
so
some white gringos. That's it.
I mean, how many white gringos are running around Benghazi in a truck? Without.
But again, they had a bunch of Westerners that were there. They had a bunch of Brits, Swedes, and stuff like that. So we weren't the only white guys that were out there. But again, it's just all how you present yourself and how you. I mean, we do try to communicate with them, try to de-escalate everything. I mean, they had up armored vehicles as well. It wasn't just us. So in a way, we kind of blended in. But for the most part, when they saw, white guys and we kind of spoke English, they would just wave us on. They didn't really care too much about us, especially the first few months in 2012. It was like pretty much, I would say, probably about May is when it kind of started getting a lot worse. That's when the elections were going on. Terrorists were definitely just really moving in. Al Qaeda was moving in heavily. Derna, I'm trying to remember my geography, but I think it was Derna was out east towards Egypt, and we used to go there, but then it just became such a heavy training ground for terrorists, we couldn't go there no more. So it was starting to get pretty hostile.
Let's go to September of 2012, perhaps a few days prior to September 11th. So let's say the 7th or 8th of September, if you can remember going back then. What was everything like? I mean, what was your day-to-day operations there?
Again, it just varies. It was never the same every day. It was always something different. Sometimes we would be working, and sometimes we wouldn't. We always trained. We're training all the time. Xbox is very important to us. So, Call of Duty, we wore it out.
Some good training.
Heck yeah. But again, they're like during this time frame, they're kidnapping politicians, try to assassinate politicians. Kidnapping assassinations was going around. It's kind of like the mobs in the '60s, but they're more against each other, kind of a thing. That's kind of what was going on there in Benghazi, and same thing up in Tripoli. It was just all political power stuff that was going on, and unfortunately, that's what the agency and the was just focused on versus actual terrorist threats.
So, you guys never knew that there was something imminent coming down range, such as what you guys were now going to be experiencing on September 11th of 2012. Can you walk us through that morning, afternoon, and then into the evening on how that all unfolded?
Yeah, I'll do it fairly quick. Obviously, the book's more accurate because we don't have a lot of. I don't think we have hours. So.
Oh yeah, and the quick version.
Yeah. So again, 9/11, 2012. I got up. I had to take the deputy chief of base, over to a meeting at the local intel service, which they had just pretty much set up. The Libyans had just set up their own intel service. It's the first time they ever met them. They just happened to be right across the street from the U.S. consulate, very conveniently. So after that meeting, they actually got a threat that there was going to be an attack on a local government facility that day. So, but again, what was going on with them? They were firebombing, politicians' offices and stuff like that. So that's what they kind of took it as. So we went over again. The ambassador arrived the night before, and they proceeded to tell the ambassador, "Hey, this is what's going on." So that shut off his movements down, and that kind of shut all of our movements down too, because we actually shut almost everything down to support the ambassador because he had no real security, or not enough security, and so that kind of shut us down. So went back. Oz again. I'll fast forward, and because pretty much nothing really happened between that time frame until the attack started. So Oz, he actually had a meeting. Well, the case officer had a meeting, and Oz was on her detail. So they went out in town to do that meeting, and myself and Roan were supposed to be the lead on the ambassador's movement the next day, and so we asked them, what route you going to take, and they didn't know where the location was. They said they were going to rely on a local driver to pick and drive a route. We don't like that, especially with the U.S. ambassador involved. We don't allow locals to dictate anything that we do. Period. So I had an idea what the place was that they were talking about. Myself and Roan, we had left, found the location. On the way back, we called the State Department and said, "Hey, we drove the route. We got the location, drove the route. Do you want us to stop it now, or do you want us to wait till tomorrow morning?" And lucky or unlucky, they said, "No, just wait till tomorrow morning." So this is about 9:00 at night. So if they said, "Yeah, come on board," we'll go over it tonight, we'd have been there when the attack took off on the consulate. But again, since they said, "No, I'll just wait till tomorrow," we went back to our place. Again, about 30 minutes later, we get the phone call that the consulate's been overrun. Not that it's being attacked; it's been overrun. A lot of people they said, "Oh, you got the call when they're being attacked." No, they're already on the consulate grounds, and they were pretty much hostages on their own compound. That's when we got the call. So we got ready to go. We were told to stand down. We told them to go to hell. We're not standing down. We left. We made it to the consulate about an hour after the initial assault started. The first guy we found was Sean Smith. He was already deceased. We couldn't find the ambassador because they had lit the buildings on fire. So they were trying to get them to come out of the building. That's why they lit them on fire. So, but when we went on, we were able to push them off. We started searching. Couldn't find the ambassador. We got counter assaulted on the U.S. consulate grounds. We repelled that assault, And then they said there's about 150 more attackers coming for a third assault on the consulate. And that's when we said, okay, there's only 6 of us. We pretty much 5 of us, really, because the team leader didn't do a damn thing. So the 5 of us against 150, and then we got, 2-3 dozen people around us. We have no idea who they are. And nobody knew if the ambassador was kidnapped, he took off on foot, or if he was inside. So we just made the decision we had to go. It was an unfortunate thing because you're always thinking, I mean, to me, in my mind, I was thinking Mogadishu. They're going to find this guy and they're going to drag him all over the place, So it's a bad feeling to have. But again, we don't know where he is. We have no doubt. And we can't sit there for hours and wait for the smoke to ventilate out of this building to go in. So we left, went back to our compound. We got attacked 3 times at our compound, and the final attack was with mortars. They shot 5 mortars in a minute and 14 seconds, and 3 of the 5 hit their target. That ended up killing Glen Doherty and Tyrone Woods. And again, that was like the final attack. They ended up finding the U.S. ambassador about 1 in. They found him inside of his room. Pretty much halfway on and off his bed is where they found him. They had no idea who he was because it was looters that found him. So they got him out of the building. They thought he was alive. So if you saw the video, they're actually celebrating that they found him alive. Not that they were trying to do something to him. They just said, "Oh, we saved this American," and he was already gone. But so his neighbor, who knew the ambassador, saw who he was, took the ambassador, put him in his car, and took him to the hospital, where he was officially pronounced dead. I think it was about 3 a.m. Officially, he was pronounced dead. But then after the mortars hit, again, that was the last attack. And just prior to the mortars coming, the team from Tripoli had arrived, and that was the team that Bub was on, or Glen Doherty. He actually went up on the roof where Ty was, and Oz and Dave Ubin, which is one of the State Department security guys. And that's how he ended up losing his life. He was just wrong place, wrong time, unfortunately. And, they got hit, and they ended up getting a hold of another militia, which ended up being Gaddafi loyalist, that actually came to the annex and rescued the rest of us and got us to the airport, which ultimately got us out of Benghazi.
Wow.
That's a quick down dirty version.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us too. I'm just dumbfounded. Who would issue these stand down orders when you're under attack?
The chief of base. I know a lot of people. Oh, Hillary didn't give us anything. We didn't get anything above our chief of base, which was Bob. Actually, I'm going to bring up a new book that's coming out, not by me, but it's by a CIA targeter that was in Benghazi with us, and and Dave Benton, or DB, who was actually one of the other GRS guys that was involved in 13 Hours book. They actually put another book together, and they dug in a little bit more about who the attackers were. And so it gives you a lot more insight on who, like all the W's, who, where, when, how, why, all that fun stuff. So the stand down order. So 17 Feb. I'm not going to give a whole lot because I want people to actually go. I want to read their book too, but I want people to actually go get their book to help support them. But the stand down order, Bob knew. I'm probably even sure the State Department knew that the 17 Feb Mars Brigade, which was supposed to be the QRF, Quick Reaction Force, or the response team if something happened to the consulate, that they were never going to show up. They said they were never going to respond to anything. They were never going to help. This was 3 days prior to the attack. the night of the attack, he had called the commander of 17 Feb and said, "Hey, we need your support." He told them, "Well, I told you we're not coming. We're never going to come. We're never going to help." So he knew even that night that they were never, ever coming. And again, he told us to stand down. So, and he wants to go and sit there and say, "Oh, a stand down order was never given. Then why'd we wait? If you know these guys are never coming, why would we even be waiting? What are we waiting for?"
Do you believe that they had? Do you believe that they had information that there was an attack imminent?
Again, all I know, not from what I know, all we knew was what we were told from the. So kind of in a way, but still, I mean, they knew that it's days prior. The quick reaction force was never going to help the consulate, and that night they knew that 17 Feb was never coming. But Bob always relied on 17 Fev for the support. And that was always the excuse because the consulate had been attacked twice prior to 9/11. I was there the second time it got attacked, and when it got attacked, then there's actually only 2 security personnel over at the annex, or sorry, the consulate, and we got told to stand down. That 17 Feb was going to handle it. So again, Bob, that's it. And then when we go back, we go through all this stuff. When we did our book, we got called liars by the Congress, pretty much the Democratic congressman, saying we lied about the stand-down order to sell more books. When they themselves, by this time, already knew this information, they already knew that there's no support coming to the consulate. So there was no reason for us to stand down. We were the only help that they ever had. So the fact that him sitting there and these congressmen saying we lied about the stand down order, to me, that just verifies, like, why did we sit there and wait 30 minutes? If Bob knew that nobody was ever going to come, why would we sit there and wait?
You talk about Bob. Have you known Bob a long time, or is this a new relationship?
No, I worked with him for a while now, just in Benghazi, nowhere else. Mm-hmm. And again, there's more information about Bob in the new book that talks more about his other places that he served, and pretty much
what is the name or the title of the book?
Know Thy Enemy. I think I sent it to you, didn't I?
No.
Just to make sure. I thought I did.
So, Know Thy Enemy.
No, I did. I sent it to you. It's called Benghazi, Know Thy Enemy. I sent it to you on text.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that information in on this video, so folks can go over there and support that new book out. Is there going to be any new information revealed in that book?
Yeah. No, there is. There's a lot that I found out actually on September 11th. Saturday. A lot of information I didn't even know about.
So here we are 10 years later, and you're finding out new information just a couple of days ago.
Yeah. So this book is going to be very interesting. Again, it's not a political thing either. She does, I would say because it's Sarah Adams and Dave that do the book, but I know Sarah's the brains of it, so that's why. And it talks about it wasn't just multiple groups attacked us, and it was pre-planned. It goes into all that stuff. So the U.S. ambassador, the reason why they attacked again, to me, until I know for sure, I just say, they attacked the consulate because it's got an American flag flying over it, and it's an easy target. It was a very easy target. I mean, it was softer than a Walmart. So, but the reason why the consulate was attacked is because Al Qaeda wanted to kidnap the ambassador. That's why he was attacked, and that's in the book. It details it all out. It details why they want to kidnap him, all that, and they did all this on their own. They actually called people in Libya because, again, she's a target. That's her job. She finds people and puts them on target, either gets them kidnapped or gets them killed. So she's very good at doing this, and
And
it's
unfortunately, they set out on their mission and they accomplished it. I mean, they drug this ambassador Stevens through the streets of Benghazi as
no,
they
they didn't.
cheered.
They didn't drag that his name again. That was one of the things we were kind of afraid of when we left. But the next door neighbor saw who he was and got him after they got him out of the window, and they started pulling him out from the building down the steps. That's when he saw him, so he immediately grabbed him from exiting the building pretty much, and then put him in his car and got him to the hospital.
Oh,
So
wow.
the Al Qaeda never physically had their hands on the ambassador.
And then he was later pronounced
Dead. Yeah.
deceased at the hospital.
Because otherwise, yeah, I mean, all that stuff, he probably would have, he would have been on yeah, they probably would have strung him up and did all kinds of, nasty crap to him. But again, it talks about, because the group that attacked the consulate is not the same group that attacked the annex.
So you had multiple militants coming at you. Incredible.
Yeah, it talks about the mortar team. It talks, it's. I would definitely say get the book because it's her comment. Well, I got a couple speeches coming up, and now I got to revise my speech a little bit because of the new information that goes in my head. I got to I got to figure out how to fill those gaps, and so
there's never been any accountability,
and they talk about that. They pretty much the Katala guy that they arrested and actually was tried here in America. He was just a dude at the wrong place at the wrong time. He had nothing to do with the attacks. He had nothing to do with anything. So really, pretty much, he was just another scapegoat. He was another. Again, they blamed the initial attack on the video guy, which he was just a scapegoat. So now this guy Katala, he's just a scapegoat. They actually wanted me to come back and to his sentencing trial, which now I probably ain't going to be part of it at all because he's just a scapegoat. I was lied to about that, saying he was supposed to be the head. I knew he wasn't the mastermind, but I thought he was the financier of it. But again, talking with Sarah, he was just a bystander that showed up after the attack and was just standing on the Capitol on the consulate grounds.
Folks, we are joined with John Tiegen, who survived and helped protect Americans in Benghazi for 13 hours with just a few men. And 4 lives were lost that day. And I'm going to say their names right now. Sean Smith, Ambassador Stevens, Glen Bub Doherty, and Tyrone Woods all lost their life when multiple Islamic terrorist groups came in and attacked that U.S. annex. And Tig just happened to be part of that team, and he was in a place where he thought he may have never would be in, and fought for 13 hours before any reinforcements, before any help was sent in to help with the support of clearing this up and eliminating the threat. What's life been like for you, John, since September 11th of 2012?
Well, I'm definitely not quiet no more. When you're reading the bio, it said a quiet, precise. Definitely not quiet. Precise, I might kind of still be the precise side, but definitely not quiet. Again, I used to be one of the guys. I just hang out. I just sit on the couch and just observe. Didn't really care if I engaged or not. Now I think it's a little bit different now, but it's been busy, been chaotic. We get attacked by our own government. We get shamed by our own government. We get told that we lied from our own government. Even, from the American people too. It depends on, what side you want to believe, but it's usually the ones on the left that sit there and say that, you know, we said that we blamed Hillary for the stand down order. Like, nope, actually, I never have. Not once have I blamed Hillary for a stand down order. To me, it came from Bob and Bob alone. But again, we just told you know, our viewpoint of what we saw, what we did, and that's all the book and the movie is about. But again, you know, we get, you know, the left doesn't like it because you know, their queen got beat by, you know, in the elections, unfortunately. Well, fortunately. Um, but it's also been good. I mean, I've been able to go out and support veterans, do a lot of charity work, fundraising. You know, I was just in Florida and at a Wheelchairs for Warriors event, and I think they raised enough to build nine 4-wheel drive wheelchairs for veterans and first responders, which, you know, their average is almost 13,000 a piece. So, you know, we raised quite a bit of money. So being able to do things like that, and again, just to being able to get the truth out about Benghazi, now even more truth. I'll even do more once the book gets released. It was supposed to be released already, but DOD hasn't approved it. The CIA, they approved it, but DOD has not approved it yet because since she was a contractor for both organizations, she's got to get approved by both. So that's what that's the holdup on it. And otherwise, we'd probably know a lot more now than what I know already. It's my mind is I'm still trying to wrap my brain around some of the information that they've told me. So I would say, you know, so do you remember the 4 Blackwater guys that got strung up on the bridge in Iraq? Do you remember that?
I do believe I do. Yes.
So this is how jacked up our government is. The same terrorists that had orchestrated that were a part of the attack in Benghazi.
Incredible. All this new information is coming out 10 years after the fact. And, you know, we're still shining a very bright light on a very dark day, really, in America. And the lack of support. And it's just something else. And I'm trying to wrap my head around how a politician in a suit who probably doesn't even pick up his own dog shit, probably has someone to do that for him too, can sit there and badmouth and call you guys liars when you are boots on the ground, bullets flying over your head. You got 4 KIA, and you're doing everything you can to defend that American soil, that American annex, with everything you got, and then come home and literally get spit on.
Yeah. Well, plus, I mean, we're being lied to literally that night by our chief of base and our team leader. It just, again, there's all when we talk about anger, a lot of anger still flowing right now.
You know, it just, so many questions that have been left unanswered, and who knows if we will ever have accountability. Do you believe that we will ever have accountability?
So there's a guy, I'm gonna look for his name. He's the commander now over in Libya that's countering a lot of the I'm gonna look at his name before I get it wrong. General Khalif Haftar. So he's actually killed more of the attackers than our own government has.
Wow.
He's responsible for taking out more of the Benghazi attackers than our government.
Still up to this day.
Still up to this day. I think I want to say they said there's like 80 of them still running around and alive. And again, they're Al Qaeda. They're not. They're the heavy hitter guys. They're not just a ragtag unit like General Petraeus tried to say it was. But yeah, they're the hardcore guys from Iraq. They're the hard guy. I mean, they're the big dudes that when you actually see them, you're like, holy it's scary. I mean, some of these dudes, they're really the hardcore guys. They're big. They're freakish looking.
Wow.
So,
what's What's life like now for you? What are you doing these days, John?
Well, I got an organization called UADF, and again, it's just to mobilize the community to defend and protect itself. With what was going on there in 2020, the law enforcement taking hour and a half to respond to anything, and just the communities being the rioting, the looting, because people want to protest and destroy things. So I started that. We're still going pretty good, and in Colorado, obviously after January 6th, a lot of people took off and tucked their tails, unfortunately. But I don't. I stand my ground and actually push back because I'm not. The government works for us. I don't work for them. So I'm still going at it, and we're doing pretty good. Again, we've done. It's more humanitarian because do food drives, toy drives, search and rescues, fundraising for people in the community that need help. There's a family that lost their whole entire house. We did a fundraiser, got a bunch of furniture for their new house for them and stuff like that. And again, we grew big and then we shrank. It happens for a new organization, but plus I also during that time I think I gave people something to do. I gave them a purpose because COVID was going on. So people wanted to do something, be part of something. But unfortunately, again, a lot of people don't stick to what they believe in because, again, January 6th, we saw what happened, there and people get labeled, people losing their job, this and that. So a lot of people got scared and took off. But that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm pushing that. And I'm actually going to start doing some training in Colorado Springs at DCF Guns, probably up in Castle Rock first. But then on the south end, I got a virtual reality system to teach. It's not based towards law enforcement. It's more based towards civilians to how to, protect your house, situational awareness and stuff like that. It's not a video game. It's totally different. I've actually had some SWAT guys go through it and the same thing, like, holy crap, I did not expect that. So I'm actually taking this system today to Fraternal Order of Police convention and just show a bunch of police chiefs and hopefully get some other trainers involved. Because again, I think the system's just, it's another tool in the toolbox is what it is.
Sure.
And then other than that, I'm just doing fundraising and speaking and traveling. So.
Outstanding. And I've got your website here posted for everybody if you guys want to connect with TIG. He's a motivational speaker and he is a patriot. And what you have done is honorable. And with UADF and with your service in the Marine Corps, with your service with Blackwater being a contractor overseas, you have dedicated your life to service, and you continue to serve today. And you also stand up and give the voiceless a voice. You stand up for the Constitution. You stand up for America when a lot of people seem to be not standing up for America these days. And you are a leader, and and America appreciates that, and I appreciate that. And I want to share something with our viewers here, folks. This was one of the most rewarding times in my life when I was presented this challenge coin by TIG himself. TIG actually did a lot of work in helping get the tally bill passed through Congress. And when he found out about my story, he wanted to meet in Colorado Springs. I went on a 7-state trip in 6 days. We got to hang out and share some times together, have a meal, and got to learn a lot about each other. And he went in there with me. He helped knock on doors of Congress. He helped set up meetings. And this was in 2020, when people were locking themselves inside. We went in there, with a, true purpose, and we had passion, and we had a plan. And that plan was to be heard and to get the tally bill passed to protect 20.2 million American veterans. And, and I can't thank you enough for the work that you put into it. And the sacrifice you made on making a lot of phone calls on helping get this bill across the finish line. So with that, I am very thankful for you, John.
Well, I think I was a small part, not a very big part. You were the 99% on that one.
Well, everybody plays their part, and
Yeah,
you did play a monumental role. I'm a man of gratitude before, because of it. I was exhausted. I was tired. I didn't have anything left to give. I just worked on getting 1% better every single day. And that's what it took. It took baby steps. It took assets. It took a team. It took guys like you to enter the trenches with me to help raise the awareness that was needed to get the job done, and that's exactly what you did. And again, I appreciate that. We become great friends.
Yeah.
And I'm a big supporter of you. I always have been a big supporter of you, and I know we run in a lot of the same circles. So I'm going to be sure to get this video out to a lot of people. I think this will be a very engaging podcast for so many folks to sit down and listen to and kind of go through those moments that you were describing.
Yeah, well, again, I'm going to get you in touch with Sarah and get her on. We're going to have to force Boone to get on and open his mouth. Another jarhead, but he was he's very well spoken. He actually talked quite a bit on the podcast I had him. I kind of forced him to come on. He was like, "No, I don't have to." He was like, "I'll just sit right here. Hey, we're on." He's like, "God," so kind of suckered in. But I think again, just let them tell about their book, because obviously she has all the names. She's have everything squared away. Because I'm gonna have to have like a notebook while I read their book, just so I can keep things in order and in track. Because again, there's like 150 attackers that they actually named. They found the pictures. Again, the ones that we see that the FBI released were just looters. They weren't the actual attackers.
Wow.
So she actually went out, and again, what targeters do, they find their target. And so she's actually put a list out on, I think I put it on my Instagram and all that stuff, of the actual list of names of the actual attackers, and pretty much from their page, from their Instagram page that they have, is where I think they're going to, because they're self-published, kind of like what you did with yours. You're self-published, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so they're doing the exact same thing that you did, self-publishing, self-promoting. But again, they funded all theirs. They're broke. They'll say, because trying to get information from people in Libya and doing all the traveling. So I can't wait to read this book. It's gonna be interesting. At first, when they told me about it, I was kind of ticked off. I was like, why the hell didn't you tell me this information before? And it's like, well, it just kind of all come together. And, because they did it since they actually they've been doing the research since 2015. They kind of have it all together now. And they started working on the book late last year, and they got it, put together. Then they pushed it on through the agency, through their public review board, and then on to DOD. So, at first, again, I was mad. I was like, why in the hell? But I was like, okay, I get, I had another friend that kind of calmed me down too and said, well, go talk with them. So, you get angry in years. So he's like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Tig, thank you so much for joining us today. We sincerely appreciate everything you do in the veteran and military community. Your service, sacrifice, and dedication to our country is truly commendable.
Yeah, we got a lot of people that are dedicated. We just got to start doing something. We got to start helping each other. It's just, we're going to.
Amen. Yeah. Amen, brother. Until next time, folks, for Tuesdays with Tally, this is Brian Tally. Good night, Semper Fi.